Hey, Kaylyn Kyle's here. It's Footy Prime, everyone. Hey, Kaylyn, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
How's life early on, as it is in MLS Season Pass on Apple, but early on, how's it been?
It's been good. It's been good. It's been chaotic, as always. You guys know I live in chaos, so I decided to buy a home at the season. I think it was like match day 1. So I was moving homes, juggling kids, juggling soccer, baseball, you name it. So this is why I look like this today. So you guys are welcome, Jimmy. I did this straight for you, fresh out of my workout and straight onto your guys' podcast. So.
Thank you very much.
So what does a Kaylyn Kyle workout look like exactly? Like, what are you into? Is it CrossFit, right?
Yeah.
No.
4 minutes on the treadmill.
CrossFit? No. I don't have the upper body strength for CrossFit. I started doing a thing, it's called Orange Theory. So it's like running, rowing, and then like floor weight. But you can kind of like just go at your own pace. So that's like a bit more me. The CrossFit people, like, fair play to them. They scare me though. Like I don't think I could keep up.
You know what? I did Orange Theory for like 2 years. I might go back. It's great. But there's some cheating bastards.
Oh.
Oh my God.
When it's like row for 100 and they do like 70 and I'm like, I can see your screen. Yeah.
You clearly beat them and they hop off to get to the weight. Like, no.
Yeah,
You're only cheating yourself.
To be fair, really that's me sometimes. If I have someone that's a bit fitter next to me, I'm like, okay, right, I can't let her beat me.
It is a great workout though. All right, since the topics at hand, it's been a bit of a crazy week, really, all things are. And it's going to continue with Toronto, Vancouver tomorrow. Now, according to AI, this is new, by the way. I just saw it today. You put in like a matchup and it gives you a percentage chance for each team to win. According to AI, TFC has a 32.9% chance of winning. Vancouver, a 41.3% chance of winning. And there's a 25.8% chance of a draw.
Who's
Does that sound
doing
about
that?
right?
No, who's doing
AI
that?
AI is.
Well, thank God we're all safe from our jobs then. AI is not taking over for us because, I mean, you guys unfortunately have had to watch Toronto FC this season and it is...
We just lost. You're back now.
Okay.
Yep. So you're just saying that it's been a rough year to watch TFC.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing because you guys know me. I'm obviously a big Canadian supporter. I get hammered on it in studio. Obviously, I grew up with the Vancouver Whitecaps, grew up through their academy, so I have a soft spot for them. But I have a real soft spot for Toronto because of the fans and because of, you know, the coaches that have been through, the players that have been through, the players that are still playing there, like the Richie Lareas. So it's a tough one because I know that the fans deserve more. I know that ownership deserves more. And even the last game, Lorenzo Insigne hasn't played any matches, hasn't been part of the 11. Finally, they're like, Robin Fraser's like, I don't know where that conversation went, if it was ownership or if it was Robin Fraser saying, you know, we haven't played well, we need him in the lineup. But then he gets in the lineup and I'm like, oh, you're one of the highest paid players here in Major League Soccer. And like, I wouldn't have you on my second reserve team right now. Genuinely, like just the way he's carrying himself on the pitch, the lack of intensity, the lack of caring. Like, I know maybe you don't want to be there, but like, unfortunately, if they need to sell you potentially, someone needs to buy you and someone needs to see you playing games. So it sucks because Toronto doesn't deserve it. The players don't deserve it. The ownership doesn't deserve it. It's a really tough one because you talk to some of the players and, you know, they're so passionate to live in Toronto. It's one of the best cities here in North America, I think. But it's really, really, really frustrating to tune in because there isn't really any positives there right now. Like, I don't know if you guys are on the same page with me on this one, but like, even like Bernadeschi, I'm like, yeah, I guess he's done all right, but it's just, it's hard because you spend all this money and you have such a big wage bill. And unfortunately, a lot of the players that you've spent the money on haven't panned out.
How do you see that ending, Kaylyn? I just don't see, he's on such a massive wage that how do they fix that problem?
I don't know. I mean, you look at the reports in the offseason, I think there was a few teams that were interested in him. And these are reports again, but apparently he didn't want to leave. So that to me is a frustrating one because the club has found you maybe a way out. You know, you can kind of tell he's not happy. Again, I could be wrong, but just looking at body language and interviews that I've seen, I don't know the answer. Genuinely, I think that's why like my heart breaks for that club because it's a huge kind of smear on the team right now because in the offseason you had you had teams that were wanting him. So maybe as a player, you're thinking, okay, this is another rebuild year. Like, how many times can we say that with Toronto? It's another rebuild year, which is frustrating because you can only say that so many times. And I genuinely feel bad for the managers because Robin Fraser is a great manager. But like, there's only so much you can do because your wage bill right now, you can't move players. So it's almost like you're stuck. I don't know if you guys probably have better insight from on the ground in Toronto, just talking to managers, being around coaches, being around maybe the academy. But yeah, it's like it's a sucky one, genuinely, because you have two Canadian teams right now that are bottom of the table in Major League Soccer, which sucks. Thank God for Vancouver.
Yeah, no kidding. But I mean, you guys can tell me, you have someone like Insigne, and maybe he's popular in the room, I don't know. But when you have that anvil hanging over the club, that they can't really rebuild properly until they free up some money, and $50 million a year goes a long way. That has to have an effect on the overall psyche of the club and the players, whether they admit it or not.
Yeah, 100%. But I think when you look at this club, this isn't really like a different story. It seems like the same story that just goes year after year after year after year. So that's why, like, I'm an outsider looking in. Obviously, I'm passionate about Major League Soccer. I'm passionate about Toronto. I'm passionate about the ownership and everything that they are doing there. But I don't know. I genuinely don't know the answer because it's almost as if it's getting worse year after year after year. I remember a game, it was 2 seasons ago. And Toronto, I think their last game was against Inter Miami, and they got bumped off the field. It was like watching men to boys. And I remember seeing a couple of the players after in the parking lot. I just stopped and spoke to them. And you could just tell it was like the souls had been sucked out of them. And I've been in that situation before when I was playing in Boston, where it's like, it feels like it's not fun as a player. Like, it almost feels like a job, which football shouldn't have to seem like a job. Like, it's the best sport in the world. You're getting paid good money to show up for your fans. But when you're losing every single game and there's just like that dark cloud over your team, it's hard for the players to want to get up and be motivated and go to the training ground. I mean, you guys all know, you guys all played. You guys all played at the highest level. It's the worst feeling in the world when you're, have a one-off game where you haven't won, but to have multiple seasons where you're bottom of Major League Soccer, where you sign these big players and thinking you're going to make a turnaround and it gets worse. Like, I can't imagine being a player on that team, and I feel for them. Like, as an athlete, it's like you feel for them.
I think I was looking in statistically, they've had winning seasons 4 times out of 18 years. They made the playoffs 5 times in 18 years. It would have been relegated, I think, 7 times. Like, it's.
But when they make the playoffs, Craig, they often go a long way.
This is what I'm talking about. It almost like overshadows these dark times where you're like this is my mind. And so this is why I'm like, again, I'm not like a TFC supporter through and through, going to these games every single weekend. But imagine being those fans right now that are like, oh, okay, we can fall back on those 4 times we got into the playoffs. We did really, really good. And like, we won the whole thing. Like, it's like being an Everton supporter. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, those 80s were great.
Yeah.
Right.
Seriously. But it does. It feels like that. You're like, you have hope. You're like, come on, guys, we have hope here.
But you have to wonder too, right? And we've all been in these situations where you go through a little spell, you're not winning matches. And I remember having spells where you lost 4 in a bounce, and for 2 weeks straight, all we worked on was defending, just so that we could get a point or get our first win to get on the board. You think, what are they doing behind the scenes? Because it doesn't look good at all when you watch them play.
Yeah, they're giving up way too many chances.
Yeah, I feel like you guys would have more insight on it. Like, what's the buzz around Toronto? What's the discussions? Like, you guys are well connected. You're more well connected on the ground in Toronto than I am. Because, like, we'd love to know. Because every week we go into our meetings and, like, obviously we talk about the big matchup, the big games. And I can't remember the last time that we had a positive discussion around Toronto FC, which is sad. It's really, really sad.
Yeah. It really is. It's the disappointment and frustration, I think, are the 2 words that, probably resonates with all the fans here in Toronto, because the expectations are so high. And like you said, it's such a big club, but they're just not producing what they need to be producing. And I think if you look over the years, have they got the recruitment right? I'm not sure they have.
But they have developed young talent, Jimmy, and then sold them. They have. Like, there's been a lot of young players come through Toronto FC too.
That's the problem. It's not selling them. A lot of them they just got rid of. So they do produce players, but they're producing players for other people and other clubs.
Yeah.
Jaden Nelson and Pariso for Vancouver. They're going to be
Russell Rowe.
They got rid of Schaffelberg.
I think there's also a definite sentiment of concern in that MLSC, who owns TFC, they have a new man in charge, and Keith Pelly. He's come aboard. He's going to tighten some purse strings, I think, here and there where it needs to be. He's going to assess everything. He's doing that right now. He looks at this team as being a failure. A failure, let's be honest, for a long time now. An utter failure. And it's bleeding money. So if you're a businessman and you see a failing entity that's bleeding money, what do? That's a worry.
I mean, I'm not a businesswoman. I mean, I feel like I am a businesswoman, but I'm not, at the level of these people. I'm very smart in what I do. But I know, stay in your lane, know what you're good at, hire the people to make you successful in and around you, pay them that 10%. But I think if I'm Toronto, I know it sounds stupid, but like go back to the basics. Like he is doing. He's gone in there and he's assessing everything, which I like. He didn't go in and was like, you're gone. This is you're gone. We need this, that, and the other. Because I feel like sometimes it's like when you're laying pavement, you're just patching up the cracks. They're gonna crack again if you don't do it properly the first time. So I hope that this is the case for Toronto, and I know it will be, because it is. It's one of those clubs in Major League Soccer that are like, when I think of Major League Soccer, I think Toronto, I think Galaxy, I think the New England Revolution, I think the Philadelphia Union, San Jose, these teams that were here from back, way back in the day, the New York teams, the Cosmos. So I'm at loss for words because I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, right? Like, I'm not in there every single day. What I do know about Toronto and what I do know about the organization, they're not scared to spend money, but I think it's great that they've now implemented a structure with someone that they're like, you take charge. You scale this back, you strip it back layer by layer by layer until we get to the root of the problem, and then patch the cracks properly the first time and get back to winning ways, because it's such an electric stadium when it is bouncing.
It really is, and we shouldn't forget that, right? It can be a great thing, football in this city, like really, really good for the league as well. And the Canadian soccer in particular, especially with the uncertainty around Vancouver right now and the for sale sign being on them. But like you said, Kaylyn, thank Christ we have Vancouver right now in Canada, because they're a legitimately good team. And I know they lost last week, but there are a lot of players out for that one. They're playing Toronto this week, which is probably a great remedy for a team that lost last week, is playing Toronto at this point. Should we now forgive them for firing Vanni Sartini, who we all loved? Because it seems that the new guy's doing a pretty good job.
Like, everyone loved Vanni Sartini, obviously. You guys all know, though, you've played again. Sometimes when a manager's been there for a while, or the tactics are the same, they become stale. You're not getting maybe the best out of your players. I've been in this situation where I've loved one of my head coaches, and he's, been released, and new managers come in, and you get results straight away. It's that rebound of, like, the players almost have that clean slate of, like, okay, let me prove to this new manager that I can get into the starting 11, that I am one of the best midfielders in Major League Soccer, and I haven't gotten that recognition that I deserve. What impressed me the most with Vancouver this season is the Monterrey result. Never mind the results in Major League Soccer, but to go down to Mexico, to go down to Monterrey, I know they didn't play in the Monterrey Stadium because Shakira had a concert there, but to get a result in Mexico is unbelievable. 2 goals on the road. That was without Ryan Gauld and Brian White in the starting 11. Obviously, Ryan Gauld picked up the injury. I think it was like match day 2, I believe. Match day 2, match day 3. And then you have Brian White coming off the bench in the second 45 minutes and makes an immediate impact. But I look at the midfield. I look at Greg Berhalter's son, Sebastian. He's been fantastic. I look at Kubas. He's been fantastic. Vite, for me, one of maybe the most underrated players here in Major League Soccer, and he's gotten the best out of this team. He's added, what I feel like Sorensen's added is defensive structure, where we didn't see that with Vancouver. Last year, we saw moments of for me, the most enjoyable teams to watch in Major League Soccer and how they played. And everyone thinks I'm crazy for saying that, except for maybe BWP in studio. But everyone's like, what do you want about Kaylyn? But they played a beautiful brand of football. It just wasn't consistent enough. Now they've shorted up defensively. They've shorted up in the midfield. They've given players roles, which I don't feel like maybe they had roles within that team last season. And they're getting massive results. Like, for me, Vancouver, I think on my preseason predictions, I maybe had them just making the playoffs. I genuinely see them as a top 4 team in the West this year if they can continue the momentum and they can get Ryan Gauld and Brian White back into the starting 11 together. You guys are looking at me like I'm crazy.
No,
no. We agree. For us, and we've talked about it many times. They're the best team in Canada right now, and they are a joy to watch. They're very, very fun. And I'm talking about the midfielders, and Ngando, for me, has been absolutely amazing this year. I think he's been instrumental in the middle of the park, covers an awful lot of ground. And I think sometimes he doesn't get enough credit, I think just because he's newish to the team compared to the rest of the guys. But they are dynamite to watch. They really are, especially when they get going forward and they're all in sync. They are a pleasure to watch. Great.
Kaylyn, one of the exciting things about this league is just from one year to another, we just don't know what's going to happen. What's up with Los Angeles Galaxy?
Oh, it's injuries. I mean, and the midfield. They released 2 very solid midfielders that, again, in Major League Soccer, you guys know, because of the wage bill, you have to have good MLS players within your squad that are those players that cover the ground, the players that don't affect your wage bill too much, but a player that can go 90 minutes week after week after week and doesn't pick up a lot of injuries. So I look at this Galaxy, obviously Ricky Puig is the massive one, the ACL. He'll be back, I think, mid-summer. But you guys know, a big injury like that, he is rehabbing extensively with the Galaxy right now. It's going to take them time to get 90-minute match performance. Then you have Peck playing on his own. Painstill's been out injured. I think he'll be maybe potentially back this weekend. There's a question mark around him. But those were like the 3 Ps last year for that team that made them so dynamic. Everyone's speaking about Joveljic, and he was a great striker within that team because he didn't have to do a lot. He needed to get into the box and finish opportunities, and almost that poaching number 9. You can see him now struggling. Unfortunately, at Sporting Kansas City, is he a fantastic striker? Yes, but it's a very different team. And I think you're seeing with that with the LA Galaxy. I feel for Greg Vanney because it's a difficult one in Major League Soccer when you do have, a lot of injuries to kickstart the season. We saw it at the Portland Timbers starting the season with Phil Neville, a lot of injuries within that side. We saw it with Philadelphia Union last year to start off 2024 season, a lot of injuries in that side, and it completely changes your team because you can only have the 3 DPs in your team. And if you're missing 2 of them to start your season, it's going to be a really difficult season for you. So I look at the West, though, and it's no disrespect to the West. At first, I was like, will Galaxy make the playoffs? But then looking at the West and looking at the teams in front of them right now, once they get those players back, I think they will. I think they'll sneak in. But yeah, a lot of question marks around the Galaxy. Am I concerned for them? No. Do I think they're going to do what they did last year? Absolutely not. But Greg Vanney is one of the best coaches in Major League Soccer. So he's just got a lot of injuries and a lot of players missing, and they offloaded a lot of players in the offseason that I don't think they've filled those voids as of yet.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Vanney even got Toronto FC into a good team. I mean, my God, he must be a genius. One of the greatest of all time. Don't know how he managed that. Listen, like ourselves, Kaylyn, you live in like this kind of football echo chamber, football. But outside of that, in the States, how much concern or play is the U.S. national team struggles getting right now?
Oh, I mean, where do I start? You guys have seen it on social media. It's the only thing people are talking about, which I love. And it's not because I'm Canadian. It's not because I want them to get hate. I have 2 American baby boys. It's people are talking about football down in America with the 2026 World Cup just around the corner, the FIFA Club World Cup just around the corner. It couldn't have come at a better time because it's bringing awareness to this is why it is the #1 sport around the world. And it's starting to become that here in North America. What I will say for the U.S. men's national team watching those 2 games, it almost felt like to me that the players wanted to rather be on vacation than to be in camp. Like, except for some of the MLS players that were trying to fight for a spot, like a Diego Luna. I thought Diego Luna, when he got his minutes, he was the best player on the pitch. He looked like he was going to burn a barn down for you and go through it on the opposite end. And I think knowing Poch very, very well, he'll take those type of players to go into a World Cup and grind out gritty results. Because you guys know World Cup, it's a short tournament, quick turnaround time. You want players there that, I'm not going to say that want to be there, because obviously I know every single player wants to be there. But the telling factor to me was Christian Pulisic in the second game. It was the second game or first game. And there was a free kick just outside the 18-yard box. And Poch put the substitution up. And it was him, Weston McKennie, exiting the pitch. And he waved his manager off. And Poch kind of was like, hold on a minute here. What? Didn't say anything because Poch was like, okay, I'm not going to, like, this is our Captain America. I understand that. But then he takes the free kick. It's a shit free kick. And then he subs off the pitch and he goes and sits on the bench. And you guys all know it. Like, now that you've played and you're in the TV world, you read body language. He sits down. It's like Weston McKennie, him, and I forget the other player to the left. And Weston's in the middle. And you can tell Christian's having a little bit of what I'm assuming. Obviously, I don't know the conversation. But you can see Weston McKennie just, like, sit back and be like, I don't want any part of this conversation. But I'm like, dude, like, yes, we put a lot of pressure on you to be Captain America and to be the leader of the U.S. men's national team, but that's not what you need to do in that moment. Like, that's not galvanizing your team. That's putting, like, disconnect within your team. And I don't know. I just thought it was really poor for him because you don't see that at Milan with him. Like, you see a very different player, but it's because he doesn't have the pressure to carry the team. He can just be Christian Pulisic. He's not that. He's almost like a Sinky in a way, if I'm honest. Like, a very quiet, like, I can't even say Sinky is that, because is she? No, not really. Like, but on the pitch, like, she's not going to be the one that's like the hoo-ha, screaming, yelling, and shouting. But, like, when Sinky led, people followed, and I'm not sure the U.S. is doing that with Christian.
He's not a captain. That's simple, right?
But but my question to you is, who is the U.S. men's national team captain?
Great question.
I said it the other day with
Reed?
Adrian. Yeah, I said this with Adrian Heath. He was here. Obviously my husband's father. We were sitting on the couch and we were watching the match, and I'm like, there's not a captain on this team. And I said, would you make Tim Ream captain? He's like, yeah, but is he going to be your starter at a World Cup?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a great point, but, like, and then Jesse Marsh, he was like, I wouldn't trade any of my players for anyone on the U.S. Like, and it's true. Like, go through the 11 of Canada. Who, as of right now, are you saying I'd swap them? I'm not.
I don't know. That's a great question, actually. It might be a good segment for a podcast at some point. Like, who would you? I mean,
I would take Tyler Adams in a second.
Yeah.
For who?
Out of the whole squad?
Well, in his position, who are you swapping spot for spot?
Yeah, whoever's playing beside Estacio, right? We don't know who that is really right now. But, I mean, there aren't many.
But it's a tough question.
Yeah,
and
it is.
For the first time ever, it's an amazing problem for Canada. Like, Canada, obviously, with the loss of Alphonso Davies, hopefully he recovers really, really quick, because it's a main player for our team. But it's a cool feeling, like, as a Canadian, and you guys know, someone that's represented Canada as well. Like, it's a great, like, I'm like a proud Canadian. I'm like, yes, this is the first time ever where I'm watching our team, and I'm like, I wouldn't trade anyone. Not right now.
We're in a pretty good position. I mean, we couldn't be in a better position going into a home World Cup. In the history of our country, we've got the best of the best.
Might be one area we could some question marks. Given what happened this past week with Fonzie, awful injury. We just send our thoughts to Fonzie to get back as quickly as possible. But what happened with the agent this week coming out and speaking on behalf of Fonzie? That's what agents do. Criticizing Canada, criticizing Jesse Marsh. He then responded, the agent, with a tweet yesterday saying he's had some great conversations with Jesse Marsh the last 24 hours. Really, it seemed to me like, if not an apology, it's just trying to douse the flames.